Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 13. The Baba Vanga Prediction. French scientists revived a zombie virus from 48,500 years ago. They uncovered the virus underneath a frozen lake in Russia. A huge amount of permafrost melted because of global warming, leading to the discovery of the virus that had never been seen by modern humans before. However, this wasn't the only time a virus was unleashed from its slumber under the ice. In the frigid Yakutia region of Siberia, lots of awful discoveries have been made. A 30,000-year-old virus was identified by scientists in 2013. Researcher Jean-Michel Claverie was quoted saying, "Every time we look, we will find a virus." It's become apparent that as the ice continues to melt in frozen places like Siberia, more viruses will be released into the world. Scientists say the risks are worth monitoring. Coronaviruses, just like the one that causes COVID-19, have the ability to survive even if they are frozen for a long time. Even smallpox can survive in sub-zero temperatures and reinfect people later on. Some are terrified that over the next few years, one of these viruses will be released from the permafrost in Russia, starting another global pandemic. Interestingly, the Bulgarian oracle known as Baba Vanga predicted a frozen virus would be discovered. She reportedly predicted that in 2022, researchers would discover a lethal virus in Siberia that was frozen. She even said that because of the catastrophic effects of global warming, the virus could spin out of control when released. It's pretty crazy to think a blind Bulgarian mystic woman could have predicted such a virus being found in the correct location almost a century ago. Number 12. The Sunstorm. A solar storm ravaged our planet 2,600 years ago. The storm was roughly 10 times more powerful than any storm modern scientists have recorded. It was so strong that if it happened today, it could wreak unprecedented havoc on our global world. The only reason we know about this shocking sunstorm is because of data that was gathered by scientists investigating ice samples. Researchers uncovered radioactive atoms trapped inside the ice in Greenland. They looked at a pair of ice core samples and saw a huge spike in the material called radioactive beryllium-10 and chlorine-36, roughly 2,610 years ago. Similar findings have been found in ancient trees with a spike of carbon-14. All clues point to an ancient sunstorm taking place around 660 BC. These storms occur when the sun bombards our planet with highly energetic particles. These particles smash into the magnetosphere that covers our planet, an invisible protective shell of electrically charged particles. One of these storms happened in 1989, and it caused the entire Canadian province of Quebec to go dark. Transformers as far as New Jersey were damaged, almost shutting down the power grid along the mid-Atlantic and into the Pacific Northwest. And that was just a baby storm. The one that happened 2,600 years ago was so much stronger that if it happened today, it could wipe out every grid on the planet. The scariest part about this is that scientists say it could happen at any second without warning. What do you think would happen if a sunstorm wiped out every power grid on the planet? Let me know in the comments. As if we didn't have enough to worry about. Number 11. The Devil's Cemetery. The Devil's Cemetery in Russia is a strange and mystical place. In the middle of a vast forest found in the frigid wasteland of Siberia is a clearing. It's an open area without a single tree growing inside it, where the land appears dead and infertile. No animals live within the clear patch, and some say they experience nausea and dizziness when they enter it. At its edges are mysterious wooden statues constructed by past generations that wanted to warn travelers to stay away. Locals have blamed the empty patch of land on demons, saying it's the grave of some evil entity. In the 1990s, people started saying the patch was made by a UFO that landed in the forest and burned all the trees down. But what really caused this patch of empty land to appear in the middle of a snowy Russian forest? The truth is that nobody knows. All we have are speculations and conspiracy theories. Some say that between 1980 and 1990, over 75 people perished while trying to study the meadow, although these numbers have never been confirmed. Some scientists have guessed the Devil's Cemetery may have been created by a supersonic explosion when a space rock burst through the atmosphere like an atomic bomb. Number 10. Russia's Death Valley. The Kamchatka Peninsula can be found in the farthest eastern reaches of Russia. It's a frozen volcanic wasteland, a chain of erupting mountains completely covered in snow. Every once in a while, one of the volcanoes will explode and rain fire onto the land, but most of the time, everything is frozen. This place is located in a narrow, unsuspecting canyon, and the 1.2-mile-long stretch of land is named the Valley of Death. It's infamous for killing almost everything that goes into it, and for a long time, scientists didn't understand what was going on. During the heat of summer, when some of the ice would melt, the skeletons of dead animals could be found all along the valley floor. Creatures like birds, foxes, bears, and even eagles who descended into the valley simply perished. It wasn't until 1975 that scientist Vladimir Leonov realized the valley is most likely filled with carbon dioxide. And as you might know already, too much carbon dioxide in a confined space can cause death. But there are other mysteries in Death Valley as well. Locals have been telling tales about the place for centuries. They say that frozen underneath the solid ice are giant pots that were buried hundreds of years ago. The valley floor supposedly hides massive metal cauldrons beneath it. There have even been bizarre sightings of giants walking through the valley. Explorers and researchers have tried in vain to uncover the mysterious pots buried in the valley, but nobody's ever had any luck that we know of. Number 9. The Iceman. In 1991, a group of hikers stumbled upon the frozen remains of a Stone Age human inside a melting glacier along the border of Austria and Italy. This was the closest we've ever come to finding a caveman frozen in a block of ice. The caveman was named Otzi the Iceman, and his discovery led to several other revelations, including what life was like 5,300 years ago. The general hypothesis regarding how Otzi got into the mountain is that he fled after being brutally attacked by someone or something. He tried to escape through the mountain passes, but instead he froze to death. For over 5,000 years, he and his tools sat abandoned beneath the ice and snow. But not all of this may be true. A recent study has revealed that Otzi the Iceman likely thawed and froze again multiple times. Scientists say he wasn't always stuck in a block of ice, but was thawed out repeatedly when the weather changed and warmed up the mountains. Even if this is true, it doesn't change all the amazing discoveries we've made thanks to Otzi, like finding out Copper Age people were covered in tattoos, or that they wore clothing made from domesticated cattle. However, it does suggest that somewhere on a mountain glacier is another Iceman or Icewoman waiting to be uncovered. And now for number 8. But first, it's shout-out time! I want to give a big thank you to James Meeks and Bjorn Damrong for supporting this channel. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join the family. We'd love to have you! Number 8. The Ghost Islands of the Arctic. In 2021, scientists off the coast of Greenland discovered an uncharted island. It was small and covered in ice, and scientists initially thought it was the northernmost island in the world. However, over the decades, other islands were discovered in the same region, which created some confusion among explorers. But many of the islands that were found mysteriously disappeared. At first, scientists had a hard time with ghost islands in the Arctic, and nobody could figure out if these were real islands or just rocky banks that were pushed up by sea ice. But the mystery was solved when a team of Swiss and Danish scientists traveled to the Arctic to investigate the ghost islands. What they discovered wasn't what anyone had expected. The elusive islands that appear and disappear are in fact icebergs that have gotten stuck to the bottom of the sea. They likely originated from glaciers and got covered in gravel before getting stuck. This made them look like islands instead of floating pieces of ice. Number 7. Biblical Truths. Mount Kilimanjaro is located in East Africa and is most frequently accessed inside the Kilimanjaro Park in Tanzania. Although the country is mostly hot and humid, the peak of the mountain has been covered in ice for hundreds of years. But Mount Kilimanjaro isn't a mountain at all. It's really a volcano, one that hasn't erupted in about 200,000 years. Since its tallest peak is 19,000 feet, it isn't hard to understand why its highest point is so cold and snowy. On the sides of the mountain, the native Chaga people have been living peacefully since the 11th century AD. They grow wheat and sunflowers, as well as bananas, and even harvest coffee beans. In 2000, geologists with Ohio State University traveled to Kilimanjaro to collect ice core samples. At 19,000 feet, they took 6 samples from the ice. By investigating the ice samples, scientists were able to determine that 8,300 years ago, a massive drought affected the land. For 500 years, very little rain fell. The mountain lost most of its ice, and several lakes in Africa dried up completely. Then there was another drought that occurred around 4,000 years ago, at the same time that the events of the Book of Genesis supposedly took place. The Bible's Book of Genesis describes the story of Joseph, and it's extremely bizarre. In the biblical tale, Joseph was gifted a luxurious coat that his brothers grew envious of. In a fit of jealousy, Joseph's brothers sold him to a group of traders and smeared goat blood all over his fancy coat. Joseph was then sent off to Egypt to be a slave. But while in captivity, Joseph had a vision of the future. He saw that there would be a great harvest for 7 years, followed by 7 years of drought and widespread famine. He told the pharaoh, and everyone was saved. This coincides with the drought that hit Mount Kilimanjaro and was proven by the ice core samples. Simple pieces of ice seem to have successfully provided evidence that some biblical events in Genesis truly took place in the distant past. Number 6. Penguins from space. On the coastline of Antarctica, there are over 60 colonies of emperor penguins. But what's really fascinating is that over half of the penguin colonies were only discovered thanks to scientists using satellites. These satellite images have helped reveal 33 out of 66 known penguin groups. Researchers do this by tracking large quantities of bird poop, also called guano. It can be seen on the icy Antarctic landscape as huge deposits of brown gunk. The penguins, when they move to a new spot, leave behind guano stains that can easily be identified from space. Most recently, scientists uncovered an entirely new colony consisting of about 500 penguins in West Antarctica. Researchers have called it a welcome development, since this species is due to come under threat as Antarctica gets warmer. Sadly, emperor penguins require ice to live. These flightless birds have made their home in Antarctica, and any loss of sea ice will be detrimental to their survival. Some climate projections show that 80% of the colonies on Antarctica will be gone by the end of the century. This means these 500 penguins that were only recently discovered could soon be homeless as the Antarctic ice melts. Number 5. Meteorites in Antarctica. A cluster of meteorites was recently found in Antarctica, pieces of space rock that could contain the secrets of our planet. From between December 11, 2022 to January 11, 2023, an international team of researchers retrieved 5 meteorites while doing a reconnaissance mission in Antarctica. These space rocks were found on a part of the continent called Antarctica Blue Ice, not far from the Belgian Princess Elizabeth Antarctica Station. This was hardly the first time meteorites have been found in Antarctica. Over the last 3 missions near the station, scientists have found over 600 meteorites. Apparently, it's the best place to find space rocks because they are so easy to spot in the pale white snow. These 5 new meteorites are particularly interesting for one main reason. According to Maria Schoenbachler, a member of the research team, the meteorites are made of chondrites, the oldest kind of rock material we know about in the universe. Think of them as prehistoric rocks, the most ancient rocks that can be found on our planet. Scientists are hoping that by understanding more about these meteorites, they can unlock the secrets of our planet's formation, which took place roughly 4.5 billion years ago. Analysis is currently being done by scientists at the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences. Number 4. The perfect arrow. On a remote ice patch in Norway, a team of scientists found a perfectly preserved arrow from the Iron Age. The story of the discovery starts in 2011. This was when the Langfon and Lendbreen ice patches in Norway began to melt. Dramatically, the melting of the ice revealed ancient passes that were used by Europeans between 500 BC and 800 AD. These old trails were used by travelers and merchants to move through the Jotunheim Mountains up until the age of the Vikings. During their travels, the people left a lot of their stuff behind. They would throw their garbage on the side of the trail, or sometimes they would lose their equipment. Many of the objects they lost became covered by ice and snow over time, where they remained frozen for hundreds of years. But in 2011, the ice started melting, and all of these ancient treasures were revealed for the first time. Researchers have found a lot of cool things in the past decade, but the recently discovered arrow is definitely one of the more interesting finds. According to experts, it's 1,300 years old. Archaeologists say it belonged to a hunter, and that it was discovered lodged between some stones that had previously been covered in ice. Dr. Lars Pilo said the team uncovered the arrow at a staggering height of 5,700 feet above sea level. Early hunters had likely been tracking animals across the ice sheets. And for some unknown reason, one of the hunters dropped an arrow. Maybe it missed its mark, or it could have fallen from the hunter's quiver. But whatever the case may be, the arrow got lodged under a rock and was completely forgotten about for over 1,000 years. Number 3. Anthrax Spores. Did you know there was a zombie outbreak in Siberia? Well, this might sound strange. There was an unusual heat wave in western Siberia, causing all kinds of things to thaw out, including a frozen reindeer that had been hidden in the ice for 75 years. This reindeer had fallen victim to zombie anthrax, a common bacteria found in the wilderness all over the world. After being dormant all this time, the melting ice allowed the spores to be released once more, causing havoc and killing more than 2,000 reindeer. Members of the indigenous Nenets community had to be relocated. These spores spread through the soil, and as the animals graze, they pick up the bacteria, which spreads like wildfire in the animal's blood. The bacteria needs a rotting host in order to create spores, which can then spread some more. Humans most likely pick it up from eating infected animals. Now, there are vaccines and antibiotics which are very effective in treating the infection. But it is scary to think what other dormant diseases lie hidden in the permafrost, biding their time as the ice melts. Number 2. Lion cubs. In Russia in late 2017, a local resident of Russia's far northeastern Yakutia region discovered the frozen remains of a 1-year-old lion cub. This baby big cat was a cave lion, which is believed to have died out about 10,000 years ago. Scientists called him Boris. 2 years earlier, 2 other intact frozen cubs had been found, named Uyan and Dina. The 12,000-year-old remains of the 2 cubs were an amazing find for the scientific community. The more recently discovered cub was handed over for examination to Dr. Albert Protopopov, a paleontologist at Russia's Republic Academy of Science, who had also studied Uyan and Dina. Boris was found on the bank of a river in perfect condition. He is believed to have been between 6 to 8 weeks old when he died. Tufts of fur are still sticking out from the cub's remains, which are roughly the size of an adult's forearm. Most remarkably, the cub's face can still be seen resting on one of its paws. Another cub was also found near the same place as Boris. Named Spartak, this kitten has fur and a long tail that has all remained intact. Scientists believe they most likely died in an avalanche. A team of international scientists are working on finding more remains of ancient animals to clone this species back to life. Would you like to see a cave lion running around again? Let me know in the comments. Number 1. Prehistoric worms. Scientists have announced that 2 nematodes, or microscopic worms that live in the soil, have been brought back to life in a petri dish after being suspended in a deep freeze in the Siberian permafrost for 42,000 years. These same worms were actually brought back to life. After carefully thawing the ice that had surrounded the roundworms since the days of the woolly mammoth, scientists at the Institute of Physical, Chemical, and Biological Problems of Soil Science, located near Moscow, coaxed them back into existence. Wow, that's a very specific institute. Researchers witnessed the worms moving and eating, and according to the study, this marked the first evidence of natural cryopreservation of multicellular animals. A team of Russian researchers and geoscientists from Princeton University in New Jersey had found the 2 suitable candidates by analyzing over 300 worms. One of the worms had been discovered in 2015 near the Alizaya River in Yakutia in eastern Siberia and was believed to be 41,700 years old. The other, which was 32,000 years old, was taken in 2002 near northeastern Siberia's Kolyma River. The successful experiment represents a scientific breakthrough in the cryonics and astrobiology fields, demonstrating that multicellular organisms can withstand the test of time when preserved in ice. Cryonics, a study that has largely been considered to be more a product of science fiction than actual science, aims to suspend people in time by freezing their bodies. We are closer to this becoming a reality than you might have thought. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye!